How's it going, everyone? Today I'm joined by Del Gatz, or Brittany Delgady, who is a director from Toronto. And when Brittany brought this project to Set Ready, I was like, this thing sounds cool. How can we help you out? So today we're gonna go through, as a director, what goes through Brittany's mind, how she put the shoot together, a little bit about the shoot itself, and then of course just like an open dialogue about how directors can enhance a vision and bring a little idea to life. What was on the table originally in terms of creative?
Yeah, so CIRA is our client at Cloud in the Sky. They've been our client for several years. They always have really fun and engaging ideas, and then they kind of come to us and they're like, what do you think? And kind of let us have reign of creative, We pitch them a lot of stuff and they're usually pretty receptive, which is super nice.
As a director, that's a common theme that you love to hear from a client.
Yeah, so for people who don't know CIRA, CIRA is the Canadian Internet Registration Authority. So if you buy a .ca domain, it's gonna be through them. But they have an initiative called NetGood.
And so the campaign video, did you know that it was going to be like a 60-second? Was it going to be a 30? Like, what was the conversation around length?
I think we were aiming for 60, and then with the option of cut downs.
Okay. So now I find nowadays there's almost like cut downs are a part of every project, it seems like. So you almost have to like plan the creative to have room for that.
Yeah.
When you wrote the treatment for that, like what was going through your mind from a creative standpoint? Was there a video that you saw that was like, hey, this is my reference, or an idea that popped into your head? Like, how did you come up with this idea?
I think because so much of it was surrounded by people and devices, like, people on their laptops, on their phones, using the internet, I wanted to make it more engaging and interesting. Right away, I kind of had a lot of visuals for like POV of devices. And then because I had this kind of idea with a script they started and I polished off to be more for video, I went looking for reference videos, like reference shots that can kind of frame and build this treatment out to give them visual
yeah, I find that clients usually are not like visually savvy. They need to see other things that existed. So
and for crew too, because we brought on Nick, like the DP, I wanted Nick to have a visual sense of like what we were going for this project. So a treatment is like, I think, key overall. So it's like your first base of like where everybody has an understanding of what the look is, the tone is. Even if the script changes, you have a general idea of what the thing is,
For people that, are maybe on the fence about like going outside of their comfort zone, you had worked with this DP one time before, but it was not like a regular occurrence for you guys. So, how would you describe selecting that DP and why you selected a certain DP for this project?
Well, Nick's great, as you know. Shout out to Nick. I knew with the rigging that we needed for this shoot and like some of these specific shots with like probe lens and stuff, Nick had already done quite a bit of that in his work. So I was very comfortable being like, I feel like he could do this, and he is like, oh, these are great ideas. Yeah, let's do it. The only challenge was like rigging the laptop to the camera, which was like a funny back and forth between.
You had built this like kind of homemade contraption to test.
Well, it was a monster because it was so heavy, and we're shooting on the Alexa 35. So basically we destroyed a MacBook and took the actual screen out from the frame, kept the frame and the keyboard. And then we're like, great, the lens is gonna shoot through that, but like, what do we stabilize the laptop to so it's not shaking with movement and it's not gonna like be clunky when you put it down with the camera, right? So I had built with Dom, my producer, this ridiculously heavy plywood, like mounted, drilled into the thing. I met with Nick for lunch. I was like, here you go. And he's like, yeah, we're not gonna use that. It's way too heavy. And then add on the weight of the camera, the Alexa. So he's like, let me take this home, take it apart, and then see what I can do. And his rig was so much easier. It was the rods in front of the camera, and he just snot taped the shit out of keyboard to the rods. Like,
but see, sometimes
and
it's like you needed the base idea to get started, right? And that's where, like, I think for a video that has so much unique camera movement like this one does, is you really have to do those tests ahead of time in pre-production.
Yeah, we did several tests even before scouting. Just because these shots were so specific that I wanted to make sure it worked before we locked ourselves into it.
Now, speaking of scouting, this didn't all just take place in like one tech building or one location. I mean, you actually shot in this building, which is funny that some of the shots will look very similar to this room here, but just above us.
Yeah.
How did you kind of come across all the locations you found?
We knew we needed like at least one home environment that we could utilize for multiple scenes. When we scouted the house, we were like, okay, kitchen, sick, looks great, living room, dining area for the other scene with the teenagers, works perfect. And then we went out front, I was like, this wraparound porch is beautiful. Could we maybe mock this up to look like a cafe, like an outdoor, dining cafe space? We needed like a community looking space that wasn't a boardroom. And then it was like a remote location. And I had actually shot at a farm before this shoot. So I just called her up and asked if we could shoot there again. And she was like, yeah. And she had a beautiful greenhouse that turned out to be perfect for like a more agricultural, remote location.
You guys brought out some pretty interesting toys to this shoot. I will say, like, this wasn't the standard shoot. I remember seeing the gear list and being like, okay, they're doing some fun stuff. I mean, you had the helmet cam, you had the spin hawk, you had some POV type rigs. Like, how did that all come to play on the shoot day? How did you make time for it all in the schedule? And were you happy with making those choices in the end product? Yeah,
well, shout out to Set Ready because you have everything. And not mentioned, the van. The van is clutch. If you need grip stuff, book the van because it's so easy to just be like, oh, we need another stand, boom, you go in. Like, you don't have to lug everything out of a U-Haul or someone's truck and like stage it somewhere. It's just all in one space. A lot of these things that in gear wise, I was like also taking this as an opportunity to try because I'd never done these shots before or played with this gear yet. So thankfully Nick knew how to use the helmet cam because you put it on and it's heavy.
Oh yeah.
I had to like tell our cast ahead of time, like, hey, just so you know, like there's like a 20 to 30 pound helmet cam we're gonna put on you, and they were cool with it. They were good sports. The probe lens too was like really only used for one dedicated shot. But I had shown him in my shitty sketch of like, what if we do this? And he was like, okay, we'll need a probe lens for that. And then it was actually Nick's idea to do the spin hawk. I always call it the spinorama. We loved it. Client didn't, but that's okay. That's why you make a director's cut because we wanted it in. And it didn't actually take that much time to set up. I mean, not for me anyway. I don't know about Nick. Maybe you should ask Nick. But I was like, oh, that was quicker than I thought. And you just whoop, 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 and it's done. It's
projects like this one that you really can see the creative possibilities if you're not used to it or if you haven't done it before. So thanks for watching, and be sure to just like tap that subscribe button for more videos.